Hello, friends. Welcome back to another session of RPC Money Talks, where we get real about money and what it takes to run the kind of business and life that lights you up. I'm Katie Mast, Director of Community here at Rock Paper Coin, and your host today. If we haven't met before, we're a payment platform built for small business owners that's designed to make invoicing, contracts, and payments easy and affordable, which, let's be honest, we all need right now. Today, we are going to be driving into a topic that every single person here today has wrestled with, whether you can admit to it or not, which is the real cost of your success. Because let's be honest, on social media, success looks like the perfect dream client. It looks like tons of cash rolling in, which also means that you jet off to all of the industry parties. It looks like more free time, or maybe even being able to afford to take the summer off. And I know I see the reels, I see the post. That illusion is out there and it is strong. But behind the scenes, my friends, I promise you, there is doubt, there is hustle, there is exhaustion, there is emotional tolls, there are family sacrifices, financial burdens, and a whole lot of fake it till you make it success that's being chased just to keep it all up. Which is why I'm so excited to have Carissa here with us today. She is someone who doesn't just talk about business wins. She's unafraid to talk about the toll, the boundaries, the burnout, and she's going to dive in with advice on how she's redefined what success even means. So today is about honesty, it is about permission, and hopefully it's a really big reset for all of us here today. Carissa, my friend, welcome. Before we delve into the details, could you give us a welcome and an intro? Who you are, what you do, and why this conversation is so important for you to have with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. No, I'm super excited to be here with you and chat on this topic. This is actually a topic I have not shared a whole lot about outside of like my mastermind and things like that with kind of my one-to-one clients. So I'm super excited to chat more on this. And if you are new to my world or have not heard of me before, I am Carissa Kruse, a marketing and business strategist for wedding pros. And I have my background's marketing and sales, so that's the world I came from. That's my love. I've been in corporate world for previous, I call it my previous life, and then I ended up creating a marketing agency, which I still have today. So I actually do work with clients outside of the wedding industry as well, but mainly I work with a lot of wedding pros right now. And I started my own wedding business then about 11 or 12 years ago, and I still have that wedding business today. So we took that business, I took my business, started from nothing. I knew nothing. And I basically told my husband, I said, "Hey, I'm going to start a wedding business." And he goes, "What?" And I was like, "Just roll with it." And so he's like, "Okay." So, anyways, and here we are today. So I knew nothing about the industry. And so I took that from, we are in actually 3 states now. We started with one state, obviously. We offer 4 services currently. And then I have my team in each state. So I've really had to figure it all out as I went along in building what did I want it to be. And at certain journeys, parts in my journey, I actually built something that I didn't feel that was aligned with me or feel that I needed to make changes. And I think that's really one of the things that I want people to know today is it's okay to change your goals along the way. It's okay to change your thought processes, your what you had originally intended your business to be. It is definitely okay for that. A lot of times, what we end up doing is we think, oh, this is what we started out to do. We have to keep along that path, which is where we go and get unaligned and where we start to see that burnout. So, if we can really figure out and adapt as we go, that's really where you're going to see like where you're going to break through that. And so I just thought I'd share that little, like throw that in there just as the beginning to get kind of people to know from that side of it. But I live in their shoes. I still am inside my wedding business every day. I do all of the sales and marketing for that. So I live and breathe it as well. So I know the struggles and can figure out what strategies, changes do we need to make from the marketing side. So as we have this ever changing environment right now.
Oh my gosh, ever changing. It was monthly, changed to weekly, changed to daily. Now I think
Yeah.
we're kind of somewhere between hourly and every 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Think
Exactly.
what's happening. You know, I love that. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. And I love that you added that little part at the end because you know it's wild. I think for me, it's just so funny that everybody's idea of success is so wildly different.
Mhm.
Yet it is so easy to just follow, right?
Yeah.
Instead of lead. And
Yep.
so, like, when I hear success today, right? And
Hmm.
I'll say success.
Yeah.
I instantly picture more, bigger,
Hmm.
right? Like that's just what it feels like right now, that is
Yeah.
success. And
Hmm.
what I don't hear and see is the reality of that, right? Which is the late night
Yeah.
and more
Right.
pressure and more
Hmm.
toll. And it's exhausting keeping up that sparkle and shine image
Hmm.
24/7. So I'd love to know what's one hidden cost of success that you wish someone had told you before you started your business?
I think it's that you can lose your sense of peace and a sense of a part of you. What we end up doing is, especially if you're starting from scratch, you're creating your own business, you put everything into it just like you do a child. Like you have those blood, sweat, and tears just like you have with your children. Like, so it becomes like this really attached emotional piece to you, where business actually, when we think about it, if you strip that back, it's really just numbers, and anybody can be successful. Anybody can build a business. So I want people to know that anybody can build a business. It comes down to the numbers and the right strategies and all of those types of things. But a lot of times we want to put our piece in it, our emotional uh parts of that of us in our business, which you're going to do, especially in the beginning, because you have to have the passion for it as well. So if you don't have the passion, then you have the emotional part. So it's kind of that, ebb and flow. You want to be passionate about what you do, but we also have to have those boundaries to kind of step away. And so I truly love like marketing. Like that is actually my, like when people say like, oh, what do you do for a hobby, like that type of thing, I actually love marketing. I love what I do. So I kind of consider what I do too as kind of part of my hobby in a sense, because I just love it. So, but what that does then is also you have to be able to have separation from it, because otherwise that's where the burnout starts to happen. That's where, like, what's next. The other thing I think about the hidden cost, I would say, is when you scale too fast and you don't have systems in place, it can drain you.
Mhm.
So, and then you want to throw in the towel, or you feel like, hey, what do I do? And I work with several clients that are scaling, and they had came into my world when they were kind of in that process of scaling quickly. And so we had to kind of step back and go like, okay, what are we doing? What are our processes? How do we get this to be not so stressful on you? Where can we, you know, and with automation and AI and all these different types of things, there's definitely ways around that now that we didn't have years ago, which are really nice as well. But that is really the biggest thing, is checking in with yourself and knowing you can pause as you're growing, as you're like, you can take a step back and just be like, okay, where am I at now? Analyze. And then also I want you to make sure you're celebrating your wins. A lot
Mm.
of times we don't celebrate. And I was that's me. I'm always, what's next? Where are we going now? What all of the And I'm not a real patient person either. So I've really had to, in this marketing world,
Wow.
really had to like ground myself and be like, it's not emotional. We got to look at numbers. We have to, like, where do we go? Where are we going next? And do my goals still align with what feels good? Or do I want to pivot? Is there something else I want to change? Those types of things. So I really, um, so that's really what I would say is just make sure that you're checking in with yourself and then celebrate those wins. Because if you're not celebrating the wins along the way, that's where the burnout happens too, because you're feeling like, or the hidden costs happen because you're you're just always on to the what next thing. So if you're not celebrating those milestones, and celebration can be having a glass of wine. Celebration could be going out to a nice dinner. Like it doesn't have to, or buying yourself something that you've wanted. Like whatever it is, just make sure you kind of document that. And so then that solidifies and be like, okay, cool. Like I accomplished this. So then you can feel like you are being successful as well, which you are. You're just not celebrating it along the way a lot of times because you
Yeah.
have this big ultimate goal. And so that's what you're waiting to celebrate. But there's all those little milestones along the way. And I always say those 1% shifts get you to where you want to go. So
Oh,
celebrate those little ones.
yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. One thing that's become really clear to me, I get to have conversations with such amazing people that range from brand new dreamers to deep in it veterans,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yep.
the experience is just such a big, massive range.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that regardless of what someone's dream was, whether how they started or, how they started their dreams and how their dream is now,
Mm-hmm.
you can be so conditioned along the way to lose your path and lose your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And some people actually just want to create beautiful work.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to serve clients well and they want to have time with their family.
Yep.
And that was the whole goal. That was the whole dream at
Yep.
day one, right?
Yep.
And so to me, that makes me remind myself that success isn't about more, it's about better.
Mm-hmm.
And in the wedding and event industry, there really is this massive pressure to keep scaling and keep hitting those bigger milestones and
Mm-hmm.
keep chasing that six figure, right,
Mm-hmm.
dream because it's what everyone's doing, it's what everyone's talking about.
Yep.
And I've been to plenty of networking events that cost a lot of money for
Mm-hmm.
entry. And I have met with pros that are there and they're not even sure why they came. They just thought they needed to be there. Or someone told
Yeah.
them, oh, you have to go. It'll make your business
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting them and they're like, I don't actually know why I'm here. I don't know
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
anyone here or why I'm here. I don't work in this market even. I'm not even, I don't even live here.
Yeah.
So why do you think entrepreneurs feel so much pressure when it doesn't align with what they actually want? Is it truly peer pressure? Like, is it truly just social media funnel? What do you think it actually is?
I think it is peer pressure. If you think of it, like I'm sure a lot of us have maybe worked in a corporate setting or some other type of job, right? Before they got into the entrepreneurial world. And even in those settings, you see so and so come in, got a new car. You feel like you need to get a new car. You saw
Right.
so I feel like it's the similar type of thing in the entrepreneur world. You see somebody booked 10 weddings, you need to book 10 weddings. Like it's the same type of thing. It's just a different. Or you see somebody's on TikTok, YouTube, all of these different platforms, I need to be on those. Like so you're feeling like you're looking at your success to other people's success and really you're on your own journey. You can create your own business around what's meaningful to you, how you like to work, how you like to do. And that's a lot of what I teach a lot of my clients is your way, like so just because somebody else grew one way doesn't mean that's one going to work for you. It doesn't mean two that you need to do it that way. Okay.
Right.
So that's where a lot of times people get stuck in these courses or these different things because it's one direct way of doing it. And they feel like one, it doesn't align with them, or two, it just it feels just a little off. There's just certain things that, and so it just doesn't click, or their brain just doesn't click on the way it's happening. Like there's just, we all are wired differently. So if we can uh really get out of the mindset that we have to be like everybody else, do what everybody else is doing. You'll see up here, I don't know if you can see it on my wall, but I have when everybody else is zigging, I'm zagging. So
Uh,
when, if you think of it that way, where you don't have to follow everybody else and do what you can do your own path, that just frees you up and is so, gives you so much like release and relief that it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do all of that. I can actually just create my own path. And that's exactly what I did in the wedding industry when I jumped in. I didn't follow what everybody else was doing. I did took my marketing skills, right? But which I had, obviously that a lot of people don't, but I took and created my own path and made my own way. And so that's really where I like to really get through to people is, you see a lot of times, oh, how to build a six-figure business or how to, all of these types of things. And sometimes people don't want six figures.
Right.
Sometimes they just want 50,000. Sometimes
Mhm.
I know I talked to a lot of wedding pros. I think I looked this week, I think I've had like 300 different strategy sessions with wedding pros already this year. Like, so when I've talked to them, it's all over the board. And a lot of those, some of them do want the six figures or they want to get to, scaling, those types of things. But a lot of them do just want to like 75,000 or, whatever that is, because six figures or whatever that is sounds really, oh my gosh. Like if you're at, 25,000 or 30,000, whatever it is, everybody's all over in different spots. Going to six figures might sound like, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle all that work? Right. So that's where, too, you have to align and have those goals along the way. Like that might be an ultimate goal, but what's our next goal that feels achievable or where we can get to next? Because, again, if you set your goals too high, you probably aren't going to achieve them. Then you're going to feel like a failure and you're going to be like, oh my gosh. So it's making those strategic goals along the way. And and just because you want six figures today doesn't mean you don't want it next year. Right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Well, and thinking, I mean, it's so great to think about that for a second and just say, like, moving into a different price point, like, that is going to take away from something else, right? Whether
Mhm,
that's time, whether that is family, whether that is calendar time.
mhm.
And I mean, this needs to be like a whole other webinar series about, we've all seen the ads and the reels and the videos of just like, oh, automate. And all of a sudden I'm
Yeah,
only working, 3 hours a week and
yeah,
everything's so easy and everything's
yeah.
so great. And for those of us that are actually in automation, it
Mhm,
doesn't work like that. That's not how
yeah,
this works. And so, yeah, that's being okay with what you need
mhm,
and knowing that that is serving you and that's
mhm.
your journey and that's your life and that's your control because that is exactly why you start a business in the first place is to make your own rules.
Yeah,
To sit in that and to own that and be totally confident with
mhm,
that being your journey.
yep,
You're making $50,000 when your friend is making $250,000, you're both successful.
correct. Yep,
That
yep,
is, that's the biggest thing.
yep.
I'd actually love to go deeper on the emotional part of this because
Mhm,
this is where people always kind of nod quietly and don't
mhm.
admit things out loud.
Yep,
Yet on the inside, they're screaming and saying,
yep,
give me the answer, give me
yep.
advice that's relevant or it's finally going to stick. And so there's no way around it, right? Success
Mhm,
feels heavy. You created this amazing thing that didn't exist before you put it out there.
mhm,
And you grew it to the point where you have clients booking, you have industry friends now, you have a reputation and a place in the industry.
mhm,
And yet you feel like you're drowning in
mhm,
constant visibility, or like we said, the pressure to always be on, this
mhm,
emotional drain of never really shutting it off. And first of all, I mean, I can't tell you how seen I feel by talking about this part today because I love my job and I love being in community and I love connecting with people and being so vulnerable and being so open. But
mhm,
it takes its toll and feeling like I'm always on or remembering someone and their story and continuing that connection that we had,
mhm,
it's hard. And
mhm,
not getting to have a bad day or a bad moment or feeling like you always have to stay neutral on something that actually might bother you, because how that is going to impact someone else or their experience with you or the vision of your brand. So, with all that being said, how does visibility, meaning always having to be the face of your business, always
mhm.
having to be on. How does that impact your mental and emotional health?
So I've grown up, obviously, back when social media wasn't a thing, right? So like, I'm aging myself, but so over the years, how marketing has changed, it's been, we have, and I know we have all different types of ages that are probably watching this too. So what overall, as it's changed, what I've noticed is we've felt like we need to put on somewhat of an act.
Mhm.
Okay. So what I have really tried to do is I'm I'm just kind of your down to earth person. I am not somebody that is like fake or like that type of thing. I try to just be genuine to who I am. If you can be genuine to who you are, it takes off a lot of that load. When you're trying, because a lot of times if you're trying to be somebody you're not, a lot of times that's called masking. You're trying to put on that persona. That masking takes a lot of energy and takes a lot of um it just takes away who you actually, your personality, who you are. So what happens then is when you're doing that too, you also usually come unaligned with your ideal clients. So
Mhm.
you also, it kind of goes back to, oh, so and so's advertising to these people. I need to advertise to these people too. So if you can stay kind of in your what's true to you, it helps the pressure of always being on because you're not necessarily having to flick a switch on now I'm on, now I'm off. So if you can just kind of, so that's kind of the first tip is be who you are. And more than anything right now, people are looking for authenticity. They are looking for that human connection. They're looking for those real people. So if we can also, so this is a perfect time for that to kind of just, I'm going to just be who I am, like, right? So you don't have to show up on social media every day. You don't have to, like, again, you can design what feels good to you. And yes, there's pushing yourself outside that comfort zone and those types of things. But we can also set those boundaries so that it feels not so heavy. So a
Mhm.
lot of times, that's really that's really where I would just say is if you can just kind of take yourself and be like, what do I feel is not aligned with how I'm putting myself out there or what, and that'll kind of really help take away that pressure of that on or off.
Yeah. Ugh, I let the chat is agreeing with you. You
Yeah.
are saying what everyone needed to hear today, showing friend.
Yeah.
Um,
Good, good.
so let's keep going with us. So
Mhm,
what are some emotional costs that entrepreneurs maybe don't always realize they're signing up for
mhm,
when they decide to put themselves out there and really grow? Because we're obviously getting advice, social media,
mhm.
you're buying the things, you're getting the courses, you're doing the things, and they're like, post, put yourself out there. Clients are finding you on social media. But
Yep.
what do you think?
So, yeah, so there's quite a few things that when it sounds glamorous starting a business. It sounds like, "Oh, how hard can that be?" Like, right? Like, and then you start getting into it and you realize all of the moving parts and all of the things you gotta do. You gotta wear all the hats, right? And so a lot of times we don't think about the emotional costs. We don't think about that side of it until it smacks us in the face. And then we get that first one that smacks us in the face, and then we go, "Oh my gosh, is this for me?" Like, and then we start second guessing ourselves. And we probably most of us all remember one of those very first ones that happened because it's so just, oh my,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like it just shakes you to your core a little bit. So what a lot of times it's where it stems from is the comparison. We're compare that emotional cost is, you're comparing your comparitis or whatever people try to call it, like where we're comparing us with, everybody. And social media does that. Years ago too, like when I started my wedding business, yeah, people are on social media, but it wasn't as popular yet. So there wasn't so much. It was more looking at the websites or more like, that type of thing. Well, now it's thrown in our face all the time. And so we feel like, oh my gosh, like I didn't do that or I need to do it. So we start comparing. And so then that takes a heavy toll on us. So one thing I really try to say is if you find yourself in that, feel free to unfollow people that are not giving you that uplifting. You don't have to, like, you usually have your business page and then you have your personal page. So you can keep following those people that you need to on your business page, but maybe on your personal page, you can, maybe just pause them or that type of thing to kind of get that space back.
Separation.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It's okay to do that. And then also criticism and judgment. A lot of times people, especially I've seen it so much online now, and people are asking for they're asking for legitimate help. I see it, they're like, "Hey, a lot of people are having bookings that are down this year. Like, what do you do? And then so somebody says XYZ, and then somebody comes on and criticizes or judges it, and it becomes this like back and forth, like, and so then it just creates more confusion, right? So it's kind of that. um so that's the other part is uh, it's great to ask for help, but make sure you're asking for help in the right places and to the right people that can give you that support you're looking for. And social media, Facebook groups, sometimes isn't that best place. Makes you it almost takes you down a couple more steps from depending on the community. There are some really great communities, so I want to make sure, but there are some too that, that people know it all, and they're like, oh, if you're not doing it this way, you're doing it wrong. Like, and then it's like, and then you start and they second guess yourself more, and then you're like, now I don't even know what to do, right? So that's kind of a lot of the emotional cost. I feel like that where we're at right now is because of social media and because people are looking for help, and there's so many people out there that are saying, do this one thing and you can book six figures. Do this one thing and you can, book five weddings. Like, it doesn't, it's not that easy anymore. It takes, it takes patience, it takes strategy, and it takes, you need to really, from the marketing side, I'll throw in just the marketing thing here is you need to stack your strategies. One strategy doesn't work. Like, it used to be you could be on websites or, Instagram or whatever, and you could book some weddings. Now there's so much noise that we have to really build in more of a strategy that all builds on top of each other, nurtures, and kind of all of these different pieces. And that's really where, again, if you can stay in your lane, do what feels good to you, you can stay out of those emotional roller coasters that a lot of, and then you're also going to have the data that we can go back and look at data wise versus riding those emotional roller coasters. And so that's a lot of times what people do, is what I see. The other thing is most of the time wedding pros get into business because they love whatever they're offering. So, the planners love planning, the photographers love shooting photos, the DJs love DJ. Like, they didn't get in to really do business. They got in it to do what they love. And so they're passionate about that, but then all of these other pieces are what leads them on that emotional roller coaster.
Ugh, that's so great. And I agree. I mean, we all try to stay away from the keyboard warriors, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's the bravery behind a screen, let me tell you, because they would never say these things to someone's face or
correct.
go to a networking event and, talk about this. So keyboard warriors, stay away. Let us know in the chat what your safe place is online. I think one of the best things that we can all do for and with each other is learn. And I agree. I've seen some very vulnerable questions posted in Facebook groups that were not that person's safe place.
Hmm.
And just because you're in a Facebook group filled with lots of people doesn't mean that that's your people. And that's not a good place to post such vulnerable questions unless you've worked really hard to make authentic connections in that Facebook group and you know that the people who are going to respond are going to respond with your good intentions
Hmm.
in mind. So if you have any, do share, do share. So I have a favorite reminder that I'd like to share just in case that this sticks with anyone. And I'm constantly reminding myself that the price of constant visibility is often invisibility to yourself.
I love that. I've never heard that. I love it.
A little bit of a tongue twister, but it goes right back to like, don't lose yourself
Mhm.
in putting yourself out there.
Mhm.
And it is so natural. It is so natural to just show up as this person that you think everyone is going to love and that everyone is going to want to support and that everyone is going to want to work with. And then at the end of the day, you either disappoint them because they find out that's not who you really are, or you disappoint yourself and
Mhm.
you lose yourself. So hopefully that sticks
Yeah,
with somebody out there.
I
Um,
love that.
Okay, so one of my favorite things that you talk about is that success doesn't have to mean bigger, louder, faster.
Mhm.
It can mean peace, alignment, and saying no. So,
Mhm.
how do you personally define success now versus when you first started your business?
So I think, I started my wedding business about 11, 12 years ago.
Mhm.
My first business was about 14, 15 years ago now.
Mhm.
Um, and think when I first got into it, I thought I needed to be big, huge, like this big, huge business, right? Like I wanted it to really, um, really just dominate. Like that's what we think we want. Oh, we want all the weddings. We want all of that, right? But really, there's right fit clients and
Oh,
there's
yeah.
wrong fit clients. So not you don't want every client because that's not what we want. And so as I was growing where we were getting clients that didn't really align with who we wanted to work with. And so I also wanted to make sure that I didn't lose the boutiquishness of my wedding business. So when I say that we're in 3 states, we offer 4 services now. Um, it's still very boutique-ish. I still work with all of the couples that want to book us. So it has to come through me. I do the sales side, I do the chats, all of that. So I didn't lose, and I love that part of it. That's really something I love. I ended up taking myself out of doing the photography and some of the services. So I do more of just that side of it now, and my team does the rest. But I I took a step back and said, "Hey, I don't need to have every client. I can be aligned and still make it boutique-ish and still be as successful as I want to be. I don't have to kind of do what everybody else is doing or be this big thing." And then I also was like, okay, if I expand to multiple states, how does that going to affect things? Like, how does that going to, like the current state I'm in, how does that look? Because I don't want to be seen as this big, some of these big ones that are nationwide that have like, and then kind of have the contractors and all those. I actually have my team. They're not contractors. So that's the other thing too is you can build it to be what you want it to be. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. So the success I feel like really is now freedom and alignment.
Mhm.
So you want to align it with what lights you up and where you're at in your business too, right? So like I when I was started my business, I had my daughter was younger, right? So now I'm in a different place in life
Mhm.
because of where that's at too. So as you grow and you transition throughout your life, that's where you can also change. So just always keep that in mind that your success of what you thought out of maybe booked out scaling fast with success is now maybe just freedom and alignment
Mhm.
so that it supports your life and doesn't really just run your life.
Yeah, yeah, and I do think that there's a fear of, "Well, I started this way. How do I change it now?"
Hmm. Yep.
And brands change all the time. Look at your
Hmm.
favorite brand.
Hmm.
Oh, and it's so funny to me too how small business owners have such a really hard time identifying with bigger brands. And I mean, I'm talking about like your favorite clothing brand or your favorite store. You're not that different.
Hmm.
Strategy is strategy. The
Yep.
marketing, psychology, the sales of it, it is all pretty much linear.
Hmm.
And so, you see them evolve constantly. And
Yep.
so there's no fear in and failure in evolving.
Hmm.
And
Correct.
so, yeah, I think that that's hugely, hugely impactful. Uh,
Yeah.
I'd love to know what questions entrepreneurs should be asking themselves, if they're realizing the success they're chasing isn't feeling good.
So when I got to that position in my business, because I've been there a couple different times, so I want people to know like we live
Happen.
and breathe this too, right? We're not, it's not this, oh, pretty picture, right? That's what you all think and see, but that's really not it. When
Yeah.
I got to that place, I really looked at it and said, what what do I really want my life to look like?
Mhm.
What is it that what do I want my day to look like? What do I want my, just bring it down to the bare bones. What time do I want to wake up? What do I want my day, how many weddings do I want to work uh, uh a month or what? Just kind of bring it back to the basics And then what we can do is then we look at and go, okay, because we got to obviously have revenue, we got to have money coming in the door, and we got to be profitable. But
Pay the bills.
yeah, we got to pay the bills. So then once you have mapped that out, we can then look at and say, okay, what is our revenue goal? So how much money do we want to make? And then from there, we can look at and say, okay, what's my, and then we can look at, your expenses or whatever, and how do we need to realign our services to meet those revenue goals? So if you say, I want to make $200,000, okay, great. Now, is that $200,000 profit, gross? Like, where do we fall for that? So we're just going to say 200,000 is what you want to make. We're just going to make it easy. Then what we can do is say, okay, if you are a wedding planner, for instance, all right, what services do you offer? So how many full planning do we do? How many, wedding management, like whatever that is, how do we get to that $200,000 number from your current revenue, like from your current services that you're off, your prices that you have? Do those align? Sometimes when I do this calculation with people, it's like, oh, you need to do 100 weddings. Okay, you're probably by yourself, probably not going to be able to do that, right? So then we can either know, okay, we either need to change our prices, so we need to do some market research to figure out, can we increase our prices? That's the other thing too. A lot of times I see people doing like, oh, I want to make 200,000. Okay, I just need to increase my prices. So they increase their prices, but then they're not selling anything. So because their market might not warrant that. So
Yeah,
I know there's this thing over the last 5 years, like increase your prices, increase your price, which if you're at, $1,000 for something and everybody else is at 3, then yes, you got, but if you're already at 3 and that's kind of the top range and you go to 5, we got to disconnect there, right? So, and that's where I've seen and actually chatted with some people recently too, is they're like, well, I increased my prices. I said, did you do market research? Well, no. And so we did market research and they were like way outside the ballpark. And it's like, okay, so we got to realign some stuff. So if you're wanting to get to that 200,000 doesn't make sense, then maybe we need to add a team member. Maybe we need to, and so then that's how you start to figure out, but then we got to put into what's it going to cost to add them in, right? So we have to start to kind of see that, but we can, if you know your numbers, going back to the numbers, it takes the emotional side out of it, because
yeah,
sometimes too, people have goals that aren't even attainable. So if they say 200,000 and we need 100 weddings and they hadn't really put the number, they go, oh, well, I can't even do that. Yes. So now you see like, oh, okay, okay, I need to either realign my goal or we need to rework it, because you can't get to the 200,000. You just need a different plan.
that's right. That's
So
right.
so that's really where, that's kind of the first that I would say is just kind of, what do you want your everyday? I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but if you ask, really, what do you want your every day to kind of look like, your week, your month? And then from there, also, are you saying yes to too many things?
Hmm.
So what are you saying yes to? And a lot of times too, when we're starting out in business, or we, even if we've been in business for a while, we don't want to say no.
Hmm.
And I am a huge fan of not wanting to saying no to the right things, right? Because if you say, sometimes if you say no, then you might not get asked again. So if it's like a vendor, is asking you to do something, is this a vendor I really want to work with? Is this my ideal client? If it is, then I probably want to say yes. If it's not my ideal client, if it's not like really kind of going after, then say no. Like, so analyze each one of those to kind of figure out the yes or no of what makes the most sense for you. But I would challenge people to say no a little bit more, because you're probably saying yes to things that are not helping your business, and then they're also um pulling your time away from your family, those types of things. And you've gotten back from events before and you're like, well, that was kind of worthless, or that didn't really help me, or those types of things. And so and the other thing too is one other thing I would say is, question to ask yourself is, are you chasing it because you want it, or because you think you should want it?
Hmm.
And so if you do that too, that will also help you kind of realign and say, no, I just saw somebody over here doing it, so I thought I should want it. Oh, okay, no, I don't really care on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another thing to think about when you're saying yes and no to things, there have been so many conversations that I have been able to be a fly on the wall and just listen in on, where someone says, I didn't even know you wanted to do that.
Mhm.
I didn't even know
Mhm.
you did that. And so if you keep saying yes to all these other things,
Mhm.
you may be eliminating yourself from conversations you didn't even know that you were originally a part of.
Yeah. Yep.
So keeping that in mind, I think it's, again, we hyper focus on what is directly in front of us,
Mhm.
but what is also happening behind the scenes? What's perception that is going on around you that you may not intentionally be trying to put out there, but that's actually happening?
Yep.
Okay, so I want to get practical here because you know me, I want everyone
Mhm.
leaving here today with something that they're actually going to put into practice tomorrow.
Yep. Yep.
So boundaries aren't just self-care. They're a
Mhm.
business strategy. And I know I've heard that so much over the past years, but maybe if we just keep talking about it, people will actually start using them. So we're going to break this down. Boundaries. What boundaries have been the hardest but most important for you to put in place?
I would say one of the biggest one is time boundaries. And
Hmm.
I think it's easy to say.
Yes.
I'm the first one. I told you I'm passionate about what I do. I'm actually more of a late night owl than a morning person. So I get my day going. I have ADHD, so I get all over the place sometimes. So I get hyper focused. So time boundaries for me is one of the pieces that really I've had to really work on. Um, However, if you like to work, you know, obviously if we have leads and stuff coming in the door and things like that, we have to kind of respond right away. But if there's things that you can do, if you're a late night owl type thing, you could work, at night versus during the day. So it's figuring out what you enjoy as well, because we want it to be enjoyable. But time boundaries, I would say, is one of the biggest ones, and I still struggle with it today. Um, and so if you can figure out and create some more, like, on Mondays, I'm gonna do, check in on whatever weddings I have for that week or for the next, like, you set kind of specific days and times. Some people really like time blocking.
Hmm.
I have not found time blocking to work well for me personally because of how I work in my ADHD. I have to have, like, do stuff when it feels right. Now, so what I actually have found is I'll actually just have tasks for the day, and then I fit them in that day of when I want. It was too much pressure to go, I'm going to do this from 11 to 12. Now, if I have a meeting, that's totally different. But if I have, like, all my random stuff, then I just fit it in. It feels not so heavy.
Hmm.
But then I also have started to put time things to stuff, because sometimes we think things will take a lot longer than they do. So, like, sometimes, if you have a task, you can say, "Oh, I'm going to," you think, "Oh, that's going to take me an hour," and it really takes you 5 minutes. Like, our brains want to trick us, and so if you start to kind of also put down and go, "Oh, that was much faster than I thought," that starts to sink in too for when you have to do it again. And so time boundaries are a big one that I would say we want people to do. Setting boundaries on saying no to every opportunity, just like I said before, that's a big one to help set boundaries on. Protecting your creative energy
Hmm.
also. We live in this energy space, right? Of this creativeness and this. And so we always have to, our brains are always like, what are we gonna do here? What are we gonna do there? So if we get burned out or we spread ourselves too thin, we lose that creative energy, which then hurts our clients, especially from the planner side, invitation design, really those creative floral, those really creative people. Um, we don't want to lose that for our clients, because that's probably somewhat what differentiates you and makes you want people and makes couples want to hire you. So we want to really protect that as well. And separating the boundary of the last one I would say is separating your personal worth from your business worth. Okay.
Hmm.
That's, again, we want to tie our emotions to our business and we think we're one, but really it's two separate things. And so just because you might have gotten a bad review from a client, um, doesn't affect your personal worth. But we want to tie it to that, because it's our income and it's our livelihood. And so we kind of like, oh my gosh, like nobody's gonna book me. Like, and so then we kind of create this spiral effect. So if you can really take and look at your business as a business, your personal as personal, and yes, you're like that employee for your business. Like sometimes my husband and I joke sometimes about how because I still struggle with this too. Like that's what I want people to know is as an entrepreneur, you get better at things, you get to a different level, and then you hit a different level again, right? And then you struggle with some of the same stuff again. Like,
Unlocking new challenges.
yeah,
You're like, "Hey, I
exactly.
thought I won this round. No,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
still going." Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because when I find myself doing that, but because my husband was like said once he's like your boss is just like not very nice, like your boss, like, and so I that stuck with me. It was a great
Yeah.
phrase because I'm my own boss, right? So why am I doing this to myself? Like your boss sucks, kind of thing. Like what are they doing? Like you know what I mean? But it's me. So when I start to feel like that, that's actually what I say to myself. It's like, my boss sucks. What is she doing? Like, and then it kind of just you laugh and chuckle. So it takes you out of that like spinning.
Yeah.
And then you could go, okay, what do I need to do different? So hopefully that little phrase helps with people a little bit because it's just kind of a funny type thing, but it's so simple that it just pulls you back a little bit and goes like, yeah, I don't have to do this, or I don't have to like I can rework this to be more aligned with me. So
Yeah. Yeah. And saying no is such a not natural thing for a business owner.
mhm.
You've built an entire business based off of saying yes and getting business
Yeah,
and income. But
yeah,
saying no isn't closing a door. It's
correct.
protecting the room you've already built,
Yep,
right? You were just protecting
exactly.
it.
Yep.
And every yes has a cost. So everyone just really needs to be choosy about which cost you're willing to pay.
And I'll say too is if it is something you want to do, but timing doesn't align, you can say, how about no right now, but can we do it in 2 months? If it's an opportunity, something like that, like styled shoot or, something like that, if it's just not good timing because of what's going on, or and so feel free to offer, a counter offer kind of thing and be like, hey, that doesn't really, I love what you're thinking. It doesn't, I have to say no right now, but can we, look at doing it in 2 months or, and put a time frame on it. Don't just say in the future, because then that kind of, it'll probably get lost. So if you are really wanting to do that, say, hey, and give a time frame of when maybe that would work. And then maybe they're like, hey, yeah, cool, that works. Or I'll do it again in 2 months then, or whatever it is. So you can um, still keep that collaboration fresh, alive, that type of thing, um, and still be aligned with
Yeah.
that.
Oh, at rock, paper, coin, I am always like, that's a Q2 thing. This is a
Yeah,
Q2 thing. We're
yeah,
moving this to Q2. This is Q4, Katie.
yeah.
This is Q4, Katie. We are not even
Yeah.
dealing with this. Or, when so as a former wedding planner, it was always like, oh, that sounds lovely. Let's do this next season, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah,
spring, summer, fall. Like just pass it to another season.
yeah.
But obviously do it so graciously, full of
Mhm.
gratitude, excitement of wanting to work together. And so I think that
Mhm.
that is great, great advice.
And I'll tell you too, I think too, when you tell somebody no, or you say it in that frame of like, "Hey, can we do that next season?" That type of thing, they're actually a little jealous
Yeah.
because they're like, "I never say no." Like, a lot of times they're like, I don't like set that boundary and say no." Like, "What?" Because they're so used to everybody's just so used to saying yes and spreading themselves thin that then I think it actually makes them stop and think and be like, "Oh, I can
Yeah.
say no." You know what I mean? Like it's like, "Oh, I can actually say no?" Like, like it's so
As a people pleaser, that's me. When
yeah,
someone like sends that email and I'm
yeah,
just like, hey, isn't this a good idea? They're like,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
So we're gonna put this on the calendar for three
yeah.
months. I'm like, you can do that?
Yeah, I know. I'm a people pleaser too. So that's kind of, yeah. So it's totally get it. And that's why it's like hard for me to say no to things too. But you just, yeah, as you're growing, you just have to really think, is this going to help me in my business? Or
Yeah.
is this going to take away from me, my business or family? Is this gonna, and if you can't say yes to any of those, then it's probably for sure a no.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I love that everything has a cost. What are you willing to pay?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yep, exactly.
another bumper.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Okay, so before we wrap things up here, I just wanted to ask you about scaling and overcommitting. And
Hmm.
I think that, sometimes growth just means more stress unless we're being intentional with our time and our ability. So, what's the difference between scaling and overcommitting?
So scaling, you're going to have your systems, the support in place as you start to grow. So you're if you're looking to kind of add a team member or whatever, you're slowly like, okay, what do I need to do first? So you've got those in place versus um going like, oh my gosh, I have too many weddings, and then you're freaking out, right? So that's kind of the overcommitting side, where if you overcommitted if you don't have those systems and support in place. So they kind of go hand in hand. But that's really where you're overcommitting and you're saying yes to everything, but you have no systems and support in place. The scaling, you've done it strategically, you have the systems and the support. Scaling is a great problem to have because that means people want to book you, right? If you're growing, then that means like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. I have a client that's in that process right now that she's booking weddings left and right. And it's like, oh my gosh, where, like, and so we've got systems and support that we've got in place. And as you still scale, I will say there's times where you might still feel like you overcommitted, right? Because you're still figuring it out. So then you have to stop and go, okay, where did I overcommit at? How do I what additional system or support can I put in place to bring that back down? Because you can only plan, you know, usually, we're small business, right? So we can only plan so far because we only have so much revenue. So but we can know like, okay, if we get this, then we need this. If we get this, then we need this. So then you can really kind of be strategic on it. But it does take a little bit of alignment as you go. Because when I was growing my my different states and whatever, it was like I had to have the bookings to have the team member, like, so it was kind of a hand in hand thing, but I knew when I got XYZ, I could then do the next step. The one benefit of us being in the wedding industry, I will say, is if you're wanting to scale, the nice thing is you can add additional services um outside of maybe wedding planners slightly. We can take on more clients and more services, and then get those people, have maybe those people in the wings, or kind of have that plan in place that then we can add those people in. So like
Yeah.
for instance, like so really, yeah. So the overcommitting side, I think, is just from the um you don't have that systems and support in place, or you're just um overcommitted, like you're over saying yes to too many things. But so it really comes down to systems and support.
Do you know what I always picture when I'm talking about this? In the movie Bridesmaids, I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
She just takes like 11 puppies and she's
yeah,
so excited in the
yeah,
moment about these
yeah,
11 puppies. And then very quickly just realizes I may have overcommitted. I may
yeah,
have really overdone it. And you
yep,
really get so excited, but also now just so deeply terrified and
yeah.
don't know how to get out of the mess that you've made. But one
Hmm.
way or another, you will. And
Yep.
so I always just picture when I'm feeling completely out of control, I'm like, do I have 11 puppies? Have I done that? Like, have I
I
done
love it.
that to myself?
That's fantastic. I love that analogy. That's
Uh,
great.
and
Yeah.
again, it adds in the humor. You're like, oh gosh, like I'm
Hmm.
really in it now. How do I get out of this? And
Yep.
humor,
Exactly.
humor solves everything, let me tell you.
Yep. Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay. So before we jump into some Q and A,
Yep.
here is what I'd love everyone to do. I want you to comment and write down and think about your biggest aha moment from this workshop today, from this talk, from this webinar. And I want you to head to Instagram and I want you to snap a picture of your screen right now. Jeez. I want you to tag us, of course. I want you to tag RPC and I want you to tag Carissa. Sari is going to share our Instagram links in the chat so that you have them. And I want you to share your aha moment with us because one of the greatest moments of a guest on a webinar's day is getting to see in real time what tracked with everybody. And we're always so grateful and appreciative for you taking your time. And we love our guests. So let us know what was your aha moment and tag us on Instagram and let us know about that. Okay, so before we head into that Q&A, I want to give you a couple seconds. I want to open the floor for you to let people know how they can continue to work with you and what you can offer and how you can help them grow. So let's hear it,
Yeah.
girl.
No, yeah. So I I do things a little differently in my world, I would say. Being marketing and strategy, I look at the big picture. And so I really try to find gaps and find like, how is your strategy going to stack for you and what feels good to you? So there's really a few different ways you can work with me on my content club, which is my Win More Weddings content club. And then I also have my Win More Weddings mastermind. And the mastermind is a lot of fun. And I know there's a couple of people that are on here that are in the mastermind, that we it's a fantastic group of people, and we're all working to build their marketing strategy, not just, hey, here's the one piece SEO, or here's content, or here. It's all stacking. And we do a lot of visibility on how to win more leads, and then how to win more bookings wherever they're at. So I call it a choose your own adventure. So I really am the marketing strategist in their back pocket that helps them figure out what feels good to them, where does it align, and how do we build that to get it to where they want to be to meet their goals. And so Content Club is a great place, and some of my members are in both, or some of my people are in both, but it really kind of just depends on what, where they're at in their business and what makes the most sense and what they're struggling with. And so I will say I'm having we're calling it Content Clue on September 10th. It's a webinar, and we're going to talk about we added a little mystery theme to it. So we're going to talk about why your bookings have gone missing, because a lot of times I'm hearing that a lot this year, like, I'm not booking as much. So where did my bookings go? So, and we have 7 suspects we're going to talk about for our content. So it's a lot of fun. So I think, yes, Sari dropped that in the chat there. But I will say too, if you want a strategy chat, I'm always open to strategizing with people for and offering a 30-minute strategy session, no charge, of course. And I'm more than happy to do that. I'll drop that in the chat here too, for you guys. If anybody wants to snag a time on my calendar, you're more than happy to do that as well. And we can just find out kind of where you're at, what you've got going, what has you stuck, and then I can give you some strategies to kind of help you get out of wherever you're at or what you're trying to do. So.
Oh, love that. That's so kind. Thank you. And I hope everyone got a good picture. Here, we'll give you a selfie real quick. Ready? We'll count to 5 and everyone can take a selfie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done.
Love it.
Okay, so we've got a couple minutes. We have some Q&A. This is going to be great. Some of these were very vulnerable, and you can really tell that this is something that that a couple of these amazing pros are struggling with. So let me get in here real quick. One of the questions is, how can someone figure out if their version of success is truly theirs versus something that they've absorbed from the industry?
Say that one more time for me.
How can someone figure out if their version of success is truly theirs versus something they've absorbed from the industry?
So what I would do is go back to why you started your business in the first place.
Mhm.
What is
Why?
your why?
Mhm.
Why? And you might have heard this. I think I got this from a book somewhere. I'm not sure. I'd love to credit who it was. I'm not sure. But if you start with your why did you start your business, and then you can drill down and keep asking why, and you can go several layers deep with that. If you do that, that helps get to kind of the core of if you're staying aligned to yourself or if you're more aligning to the industry. I would say when I'm chatting with a lot of people, they're thinking they have to do things because it's aligning to the industry. So most times people are not really aligning to themselves. So that's a great question. So I would just, go back to the why. And then once you start to know that why, you can say, okay, why am I going to this event? Is it because I feel like I need to because of the industry? Or is it because everybody else is? Is it because I want to go connect with more vendors? If that's the case, then that's a great why, right? But if it's because everybody else is going, so like, for example, I hear sometimes people say like Wedding MBA or some of these conferences, right? People will say like, do I need to go to Wedding MBA? Like you see questions like that as it gets closer. And I know Wedding MBA is coming up, which is Wedding MBA is great. So I don't want to but I'm just using it as an example that if you say, but if you're going to say, oh, I'm going to go because everybody else is going, okay, that's really not probably the best reason. Um,
Yeah.
so can we either change our why we're going to go to make sure it aligns, and make sure it's a good fit, or maybe we just don't, maybe it doesn't fit this year and maybe it's next year's thing. So
Mhm.
it's the peer pressure stuff of a lot of times that we get sucked into of doing it because everybody else is doing it. And so yeah, so I would just really ask myself that why.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like we have time for one more. We'll squeeze it in here real quick. How can I scale my boutique in a way that attracts more clients but doesn't burn me out? And what mindset shifts help entrepreneurs like me stay motivated? So I think maybe sake of time, maybe what are your like top 5 ways that you just like stay motivated every week? Because it is getting hard out there to stay
Mhm.
motivated.
Yeah. One of the things is I limit the time I am on social media.
Yes.
So that would be number one. And it's actually kind of nice because Facebook tells me on my phone now, like, oh, you were on for 35 minutes a day or like whatever.
Shames you. It
It does.
really
Yeah.
does.
So when I get to like where I'm under an hour, like a day on what I'm like, yes, I succeeded. Right. So if you can do some of that, that helps your mindset because a lot of times we get into that scrolling and then that starts to send us in spirals and those types of things. A few other things is, um, if you can kind of figure out what it is that you need to accomplish for your ultimate goals. A lot of times also we are doing tasks that aren't getting us closer to our goal. We think they are, but they're just spreading us thinner and
Easy work.
yeah, busy work, we're wasting time, those types of things. Another thing that works well is I'm going to use the word automation. However, automation is there's a strategic way to use it. We don't
Yes.
want to automate ourselves out of business. I'm seeing a lot of people trying to automate everything and then they're going, I'm not booking anything. And I said, well, yeah, because you've automated yourself out of business. So automation's great and it should be included, but it needs to have its own place in your business as well. Um, so those would probably be like maybe, a few of the first, things I would say to get started with from that mindset side of really just breaking down what does your day look like or week look like, and then because sometimes we don't even realize what we're doing, we just do it, right? And then are there, as you're trying, I know she asked about
Find working, right?
yeah,
Like just
yeah,
doing it and you don't even know why.
yeah, correct. And as you start, I know she asked about scaling too. As you start to scale, one of the things, and when I did it inside my business was I was like, okay, I know I can't do everything myself. What can I do to, or who can I have help in certain maybe areas that won't hurt my business, what I'm trying to create, like, because I don't usually when you're scaling, I don't like to take you out of the sales side or out of the booking side, those types of things, because that's your bread and butter. That's like you don't want to lose that. And if you don't know if something's working or not, and they don't that salesperson doesn't have as much passion as you do for your business. So that's a lot of times people want to do is when they're scaling is it's like, oh, I'm gonna pass that off. No, that's like the last thing we pass off if we need to. So but there's other things inside there that we can get a VA to try to help us with and kind of help with some of that time management stuff as you're trying to scale. So that's really and that's what services are you scaling? Do we have the team members for that? And then it gets into the hiring, all of those types of things. And so there's a lot of like moving parts to it, but there's things I've learned over the years. There's things that I've like, oh, never do that. Like, so yeah, so I can get people where they want to go much quicker if that's what they're struggling with. But just know, like, yeah, I would start off with like, what's that look like? And then what do we need to scale? What does that look like? And then what do we need to be able to um, change up in order to do that?
Carissa, my friend, thank you so much for being here today,
Yeah.
providing your expertise, your experience, and as always, teaching us so, so very, very much. This was absolutely amazing. And I really want people to keep learning from you. So I hope you get lots of new visitors today, just checking you out and doing your super amazing mystery
Thank
event.
you. Yeah.
Amazing. And thanks to all of you for listening. Don't forget to show us your social post today and what you learned, and be sure to join us on our next sessions next month. We will see you soon, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.